Hey everyone, welcome aboard. There are three main things we're going to cover in this really quick video today. The first one being the most common mistake that bookkeepers make when it comes to GST. The second, which ties this all in, is our really quick 10-minute reconciliation process, followed by automation, how we can do those checks effectively through setting up bank rules. So let's get into it. One of the biggest mistakes that I see new bookkeepers and even some senior bookkeepers have made is incorrectly coding GST-free expenses. Many assume that all expenses from a supplier include GST in Australia, but that is not always the case. For example, your things like bank fees, certain aspects of your insurance, certain government charges, even some supplier invoices, and certainly medical supplies and/or health and care services do not include GST. If you're claiming GST on these things and you're just hitting, yep, it's all got GST, you're actually overclaiming, and that's a red flag for the ATO. So a really quick tip and a really quick fix is to, one, know your industry, understand what they do for work to grasp whether they in fact can on-charge GST or claim GST credits. And always check the supplier's invoice. And if you're ever not sure, just ask the client. It takes seconds. And then you just use the below link, which is our Australian Business Register website, the ABR website. And you can just pop the ABN in there and it'll bring up whether they're GST registered or not. All right, on to our second point, my quick 10-minute GST reconciliation process. Our first step, we want to run the GST detailed report in Xero for the BAS period. So under your activity statements, where it pulls up this main activity statement page, you can actually drill down into the tax transactions or BAS transactions. We want to cross-check that data and make sure nothing looks funny in our GST coding in there. Step 2 is to compare it to the balance sheet GST account to spot discrepancies. I'll show you that in a minute. And the third one is to check for common errors like GST claimed on non-GST items or transactions missing GST, which we can see really easily within that report once you pull it up. And the fourth step is to adjust and finalize. We can have this done in 10 minutes. I would argue 5 minutes. Now, if we jump to the next slide, you can quickly see I've just taken a snippet of the bottom end. When you go into the balance sheet and look at the GST transactions, we can see that 1B correlates to the activity statement. 1A correlates to the activity statement. The difference is just the roundings in cents. As we know, BAS is claimed in whole dollars, not cents. And that all looks good. And the final amount highlighted in green, 654, is the payment amount. And that's the cross-check that we want to see in our reconciliation for our GST and our BAS data. Now, last but certainly not least, a simple automation to prevent GST errors is to custom GST rules in Xero. You can do this through setting up bank rules as well as adjusting the invoice templates that autocode GST correctly based on past transactions. What this avoids is manual coding errors and GST overclaims. So we won't have that problem anymore if you set up bank rules or if you automate the invoice templates. So I'll quickly show you how to do that. A really quick bonus tip as well is you can run the activity statement before lodging the BAS. You can actually run it anytime during the quarter. You could do it monthly, you could do it weekly if you wanted to, and go through those transactions. Now, quickly to set up bank rules, if you've never done it before, we can jump in through bank accounts, or we can just do it on our dashboard. We just jump into which bank account it's relevant to, bank rules, and we've got our spend money, receive money, and transfer money rules. So there's a couple set up in the demo company. We create rule, and this is we just follow all the prompts, fill in all the fields. Tax rate is where you want to know that your GST rate is correct depending on what you're setting up. As an example, we'll jump into 7-Eleven. I know that that's generally related to petrol-related expenses. We can see that's all set up, motor vehicle, GST on expenses, as well as it saves you time in your bank reconciliation. And lastly is checking those invoice templates. So I've just gone into the demo company settings. We want to go into invoice settings. Then we just want to check that everything in our options, if you're just using the standard brand, that it's all got the correct, whether it's tax invoice or just invoice, if there's no GST, if the client is not registered for GST, we want to make sure that the tax number is showing, tax rate, inclusive or exclusive. We just want to make sure that this all looks correct. And like I said, if you're not sure, you can ask the client or you can go to Xero's Help Central. The next thing we want to check, or we can check, if they've got custom invoices set up. If we just download the invoice template and we go into invoice, bring that over. And you can see here it's got tax percentage, subtotal. It's all going to bring all of that across nicely. So I just want to make sure it's got these things set up correctly. Like I said, go to Xero Support or Xero Help Central, lodge a case if you're not sure. That's the main thing you need to check to make sure that the GST is all being recorded correctly on the client's behalf and in relation to the rules that are set up for GST-related items. Super quick recap of today. We have gone through the number one GST coding mistake that affects most bookkeepers. We have also addressed my 10-minute GST reconciliation process, as well as the automated checks that save my clients thousands of dollars as well as lots of time. Now, the best part is I've shown you how to process a BAS in just 10 minutes while maintaining 100% compliance. Watch out for tomorrow's email. We're going to reveal the biggest STP pitfalls I see offshore teams make. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you then.